Hello everyone. In this video, we will learn Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 for the exam EX200. So this is the Red Hat Certified System Administrator exam. So here in this video, I'm going to explain uh, what are the things we need to practice, and so it's the session by session, and I'm going to discuss individual topics and what I'm going to cover. So Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system exams, right? Like RHCSA exam, it's one of the toughest exam in the business. Like we have to practice, practice, because this Red Hat Enterprise Certified System Administrator exam is completely practical based. So first thing, we will understand what are required to accomplish this certification. So here the main goals and methods are like creating your own testing environment to practice. Like you have to create your own environment on your laptops or desktop. You can create your virtual machine, or if you have a complete physical hardware, then you can install the Red Hat Enterprise on that machine, and you can start practicing and work on as much as examples described in this training. And also, once you have completed all the lab sessions, so take the pre-assessment exams and also the take the practical exams, so that way you can pass your exam. And again, I am saying you have to practice. So coming to the RHCSS session 1, this is basically we will discuss how to install the Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So, and first of all, like I'm going to show you like how to where to get the Red Hat Enterprise Linux software from, and what are the hardware specifications and what softwares are required, how I'm going to install the Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system. And the session 2 will be like using essential tools. So this session will cover some of the Linux basics, including like working with the shells, basic Linux commands. And so this is particularly like if you are new to the Linux operating system, so this is a best session where you can start working on the shells and Linux shell and Linux commands. So next, the session 3 is essential file management tools. In this session, you will learn how to work with the tools to manage the Linux file system. So this is an important skill because everything on Linux is everything is like file system oriented. So once you have installed an operating system, so everything in the operating system will be file system based or file based. So you will be working with the files, you will be working with the directories, you will be working with the file system. And session 4 is working with the text file. So once you have installed the operating system, everything is ready, and you open a shell, so you can start creating some text file. So in this session, I'm going to show you how to create the text file and how you're gonna play with this text file using different editors. Session 5 is how you're gonna connect to the Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 from a remote login or from local login. So here in this session, I'm going to show you what are the different terminals available, terminals or types are, and how you're gonna connect from Windows desktop to the Linux machine, or MacBook to the Linux machine. Session 6, users and group management. In this session, I'm going to show you how to create the groups, how to create the users, and how to manage these users and groups. Okay. And session 7, configuring the permissions. So you have installed the operating system and you created few files or directories. Once you have done that part, so it's very important to understand how you gonna set the permissions for those files, and how you gonna set up the ownership. So file permissions are very important, so to restrict the access. So only if you want to give permissions to specific users or specific group of people, Then you can set up the permissions to those files and directories, so only that specific or access users will can access those files. Session 8 is like configuring the networking. So here networking plays an important role in the Linux operating system. Without network, it's not or it's useless, I can say. So this session will give you the complete overview of networking, how you're going to set up the network interface, IP address, the bonding and all. So session 9 is managing process. So in the operating system, every service or every job will be assigned to one process ID. So as an administrator, you need to know how to work with the different tasks that can be running on the Linux. So this session shows how to do this. So by sending signals to the process or by changing the process priority, and how you're gonna check the running process, how you're gonna verify the whether the process is running or not. So session 10, working with virtual machines. So RHEL itself include KVM, a complete solution that allow you to run virtual machines on top of RHEL. So this session explain how to manage virtual machines. RHCSA session 11, it's about managing softwares. So Red Hat offers an advanced system for managing software packages. So this session teaches you how it is going to work. So how you're gonna manage those software, how you're gonna install the software, how you're gonna remove the software or update the software. Okay, so session 12 is scheduling tasks. So in this session you will learn how to schedule a task for execution on a moment that fits you best. Like let's say if you want to run some jobs during a specific time, let's 10 a.m. on Saturday, 10 a.m. on Sunday, or every day you want to run some particular job or script, so you can use this scheduling task within the Linux operating system. Session 13 is configuring logging. So as an administrator, you need to know what's happening on your server. So here in this Red Hat Enterprise Linux, RSys log D and journal D services are used for this purpose. And this session explain how to work with them. Okay, how you're going to set up this RSys log and journal log D services, and how you're going to use them. Section 14 is managing partitions. So storage management is an important skill of a Linux administrator. This session explains how hard disk can be organized in partition and how these partitions can be mounted in the file system. So once you have created the once you have installed the operating system, by default it will create the root file system, boot file system, swap file system. So if you want to create additional file system, so and you can add the additional disk to it, and you can do the storage management, and you can create the file systems and mount those file system on the operating system. So we will discuss in the session 14. Session 15 is managing LVM logical volumes. So here, let's say with a single operating system, if you install operating, it will come with a single disk. If want to store the data, application data or database data, so it's not recommended to keep those files in a root file system, because root file system may crash sometimes because of some unused activities. So it's always recommended to use separate disk, so to write the data into the disk. So here we use LVM concept here. So it is basically dividing disk in partitions in a, and you can combine the disk as a single partition, and you can create the logical volume groups, logical volumes, file systems, and mount those file systems and use it. So this session shows how to create and manage those logical volumes. Session 16 is basically, it's a kernel management. So the basic kernel management, the kernel is a part of an operating system that care of handling hardware. So this session explain how that works and what an administrator can do to analyze the current configuration and manage hardware devices in case the automated procedure does not work so well. So here, like kernel plays again a very important role to communicate your operating system with the hardware. Like say if you are typing something, if you are writing something, if you are rebooting, or if you, so everything will be communicated with the through the kernel. So operating system or shell will be communicated to the hardware through kernel. Kernel is interpreter or mediator between the hardware and a shell. Session 17 is configuring basic Apache server. So Apache server is it's a web server, and I'm going to show you how to install this Apache server and how you're gonna host these any websites, static website in this Apache web server. Session 18, managing and understanding the boot procedure. Many things are happening when happens like when Linux server boots, right? Whenever you reboot the machine or boot the machine, so there are a lot of services will start up and a lot of applications will start and a lot of activities involved. So during this boot procedure, so here we will see in detailed zoom in like what are the things are involved during this boot process. So session 19, troubleshooting the boot procedure. So if sometimes, let's say if your Linux operating system got stuck, okay, so how you gonna fix that? How you gonna bring your Linux operating system back to the login prompt or shell prompt? So here in this session, we will see how to troubleshoot those kind of issues. Session 20, like we will here in this session, I'm going to explain the use how to use the kickstart. So if you want to install one server, you can go through manual installation procedure like let's just using the DVD or ISO image. But if it is a if your client is or if your company is a big organization, so every time we cannot use the same DVD to install n number of servers. So it is better to use a kickstart server. Or we can say like using installation server, you can install as many as servers. RHL, RHCSS section 21 is like managing SC Linux. So many Linux administrator, even myself, I I know how to switch off the SC Linux, but I don't know particularly how to use that. Right? We I don't use it often. So because of security purpose or because of the client requirement, so we don't use this SC Linux as in a day to day daily act. So normally we disable this SC Linux. So but in this session you will learn how SE Linux works and what to do to configure it so that your services are still working and will be much better protected against possible abuse. So in session 22 we'll discuss configuring a firewall. So apart from SE Linux, so RHCL 7 comes with a firewall. So here it's a firewall service also very important. So in this session you're going to learn how this service is organized and what you can do to block or enable access to a specific services. So session 23 is like configuring remote mounts and FTP. So while working in a server environment, managing remote mount is an important skill. A remote mount allows a client compute to access file system offered through a remote server. So these remote mounts can be made through persistent mount in /fs tab, /etc tab, or by using auto mount service. So this session teaches how to set up either of them and also shows how to configure an FTP server. So it's not only using the local file system, we can also use the other servers like other server file system, and you can mount them using this uh, NFS like net. We can also call it as NFS file system, and you can add these NFS file systems in a HCFS tab or auto mount services. I'm going to show you how to mount these NFS file systems or network file system on a Linux machine. Session 24 is like configuring time services. So for many services such as a database or Kerberos, it is essential to have a right time. Because time is very important. So time synchronization plays a very important role when you investigate any issue or when you are doing some trading activities or any kind of business activities or money transaction activities. So it's very important to work with time services so that you can make sure that every day or every second your server will synchronize with the NTP server. And this session teach you how we can use this NTP service or time services.